Good evening, Jan John here. Imagine that you are on your way home from work or university and suddenly an idea pops up into your head. Maybe I should go and see a movie at the cinema, and you immediately change your direction and head for the local cinema. This is what we call spontaneity. Doing something without planning, but from your mood or a sudden impulse. There are many examples of this kind of behavior. Not just going to a movie, but maybe having something to eat, telephoning a friend, going for a walk, almost anything really. And what feels good about this spontaneous behavior is it feels fresh and makes you feel like you have more freedom. This kind of action is especially enjoyable if it breaks some boring routine. For example, maybe you decide to take a day off work and go to the seaside. Stealing a day like this can feel extremely relaxing and more exciting than if you had planned it. Children are probably more spontaneous than adults. As adults, we naturally fall into the habit of planning our time very carefully. Almost everything we do each day is planned beforehand and may also be part of some routine. Children may be more spontaneous because they are newer to life. They have had less experience, so everything can seem new and exciting. So you might often see kids suddenly doing something unexpected, such as playing a new game or showing some interest in something, which looks very much like spontaneous behavior. Where does this spontaneity come from? Well, it must come from our thoughts and emotions, because everything comes from there. But maybe the difference between spontaneous behavior and routine behavior is the thoughts and emotions seem new and fresh. You can see from the statistics on the chart that less than 2% of people are highly spontaneous. And I think we often feel that we are not spontaneous enough, that we live our lives according to very strict routines and habits, and we hardly ever do something new. So should we strive for more spontaneity in life? Personally, I don't think so, because if we organize our activities and time, we will likely be more successful in our goals and achieve greater satisfaction. There are so many things in life which need very careful planning, such as our work, our relationships with other people, the housework we have to do at home, the cooking, cleaning the car, ironing our clothes. Almost everything will be done better and more efficiently if we plan ahead. Spontaneity is unlikely to be a positive virtue in most situations. Another point is that something can only be spontaneous for the first time. So if today I decide to go to see a movie rather than go straight home after work, that is spontaneous. But if tomorrow the idea arises in my head again, then it would not be spontaneous. It would be the beginning of a routine, a habit. So spontaneity inevitably dies a very quick death because we are limited in the number of things we can do for the very first time. Of course, spontaneity may not only be about yourself, it may be about other people. So you might spontaneously decide to buy your girlfriend a present, for example, even though it is not her birthday. You may spontaneously decide to ring your mother or father who you haven't spoken to for a long time. But deciding whether this is spontaneous or whether it is a thought process which has been going on in your head for a long time, only you can know. I suspect in reality most spontaneity is not actually spontaneity, but old habits being repeated. Maybe just something you haven't done in a while. So why do people think we should have more spontaneity? Why do we think that life is too organized, too routine, and too planned? I suppose because it gets boring. We get bored because we do the same thing every day, often at the same time. And something tells us that this is maybe not the right way to live our lives. Well, there probably is some truth in that, but again, the problem arises that if we are to look after ourselves well, routines are definitely very useful. If every day really was a new day where every decision was a new decision, life would be very difficult and tiring. Although it would also be exciting, of course. Maybe all we yearn for, Y-E-A-R-N, yearn for when we desire more spontaneity is to go back to our childhood, when everything seemed so new and fresh and exciting. But we cannot turn the clock back. Time only moves forward. Or at least this is the only scientific theory about time which we believe in at the moment, unless you believe in time travel and time machines. So I guess we just have to accept that spontaneity is something which becomes rarer and rarer with age. Let's do an essay question now. Our lives seem very routine and habitual, lacking spontaneity. We do the same things every day, often at the same time, often while looking at our watches. Do you think we should have more spontaneity in life? Introduction first. Spontaneity means following your whims, W-H-I-M-S, whims, or fancies, F-A-N-C-I-E-S, fancies, sudden thoughts and feelings which enter your head and you act upon them. For example, you may wake up tomorrow morning, turn off the alarm clock and suddenly think, I'm not going to go to work today. I'm going to get on an aeroplane and go to Paris and eat delicious French food and taste exquisite French wine. Few people, of course, will have the freedom of time and money to act on this kind of impulse, but this is what we mean by spontaneity. Paragraph 2, I'm not going to support spontaneity. Frankly, I think spontaneity is for the world of childhood rather than adulthood. It's wonderful in your dreams to take sudden flights to exotic places, leave your car in the middle of a traffic jam and walk through the park, or on a whim visit an expensive Italian restaurant in your city. However, we cannot live our lives according to dreams. Dreams are usually disappointing. When we follow an idea on impulse without careful planning, we are often disappointed. Human society has become so successful in the areas of technology and organization just because of planning. Rigorous and meticulous planning enables us to do very complicated things in life and achieve much higher standards for our society. Education, for example, is much better for having been based upon careful planning and forethought. No student wants to walk into a school or university who do not have a clear syllabus, and the teachers begin each class not really knowing what they're going to do, just waiting for some impulse. For example, I have a friend who, when he was at high school, decided to try 1 year in an independent school. This school did not have a set syllabus, but allowed the students themselves to decide the content of each class. He told me that the system was totally chaotic. At the beginning of each class, there would be an enormous argument between students about what they were going to do, and by the time this argument had finished, the class period had also ended. He had only been studying in this school around 3 months when he begged his mother to allow him to return to a normal school with a system, organization, and teachers with a plan. Clearly, this is an example of how spontaneity was taken a step too far. Third paragraph, saying something in support of spontaneity. On the other hand, spontaneity can be sometimes very useful if it does give people more freedom. For example, I was listening to an artist, a famous artist, talking about when they studied at Goldsmiths College in London, a famous art school. He studied there in the 1980s with famous artists like Damien Hirst, and he told me that this was a very successful time for artists because they did not have a set curriculum, and each day was in fact an exploration of the unknown. In the world of art, this lack of system was able to produce some famous and successful artists, and if they had followed the design which this famous college now uses, which is more along the lines of teaching physics or psychology, he felt it would not have been anywhere near as successful at producing exciting and successful artists. Final paragraph. In conclusion, no, I think spontaneity, although sometimes exciting, should not be a substitute for careful planning. Good night, everybody.